Hello, everybody. This is the morning meeting. It's the most casual show you'll ever find, and we like it that way. Welcome in. Thank you for joining. Today is July 10th, 2025. There's a lot going on, and that means Dan and Sean, they're your saviors, basically. I don't know what you do without them. Thank you for joining here on the two-way platform. Raise your hand if you want to be in the conversation. If you're watching YouTube or X, please don't put smack in the chat. Gentlemen, welcome. How are you guys doing today?
Mark, we're great. What's for breakfast this morning, Mark?
I just had a bar. So brand I really like. I don't remember the name of it. It's all natural, no crap in it. And then I'm about to drink a celery juice, Dan.
Really?
Oh, from Prest. Did you order that or did you buy go to a store? Because
we ordered it.
They ordered it.
How many calories do you think in this bottle of celery juice?
Well, I don't know what else is in it. I mean,
there's like 8.
Just celery. Just to be clear,
and water.
This is ordered by a house guest who left before they arrived. So I have about 100 of these to drink.
But I'll tell you what. So they're part of. They usually take those as part of a cleanse.
Yeah, I was going to say, you taking a urine test or something?
No, but I'm taking some Advil. I don't know if it's going to be good. It looks good.
I will say this. I like it, but I'm just telling you, this show better not go on for longer than an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Or we're going to have to do some pauses.
We have some new sponsors here.
If that's your first rodeo with celery juice.
Surprisingly good. All right. Welcome. Let's run through the day book, and then we'll get your questions later. Please raise your hand if you want to be involved. President's got nothing public today. As of now, 10:30, closed press intelligence briefing. Don't know what the vice president's doing. Secretary Rubio is at the meeting of Asian nations. ASEAN in Kuala Lumpur. And this morning he spoke very favorably of the importance of Asia to setting the future of the world. 108, please.
When I hear in the news that perhaps the United States or the world might be distracted by events in other parts of the planet, I would say distraction is impossible, because it is our view, our strong view, and the reality that this century and the story of the next 50 years will largely be written here in this region, in this part of the world.
Now that's real Rubio, not AI Rubio. But I'm sure on some level he believes that. But at the same time, ironically, perhaps, while he's in Asia, he's already met with his counterpart from Russia. Here's the two of them. You see, these are the stoniest visages you've ever seen. This is like Cold War stuff. There's the Secretary of State. No Witkoff glad handing here. And they're meeting, and we believe the meeting's still going on. We hope to have an update for you by the end of the program. But he met with his Russian counterpart, presumably Ukraine, not Asia, at the top of the list. Man, that is a stony thing.
Yeah, one sterile.
By the way, that is just for viewers at home. To our right, Rubio's left, is my old colleague, Michael Anton, who is not only a very astute national security person, but he is a culinary guru and very into fashion and dress attire. And
a super smart and super nice guy by all accounts. In any event, that meeting's going on, and there's not much else going on. Senate Intelligence Committee has a closed hearing at 10 o'clock. The jobs claims report came out in June. What did that show? Somebody will tell us. I forgot to look. All right. U.S.
The jobs report comes out on Fridays at 8:30.
Really? Initially?
Yeah, usually first Friday of the month.
Huh. I don't know why it's on here. All right. Thank you for that. I forgot. This was not Friday. All right. In any event, there's not much else happening. U.S. Russia. A lot happening there. Overnight, 103, please. More attacks, second straight night of what is being characterized by some as the largest drone attacks of the entire conflict. New York Times, Russia bombards Ukraine as U.S. frustration mounts. Kyiv was the main target of an hours-long assault that killed at least 2 people. Officials said the barrage came hours before the top American and Russian diplomats were expected to meet. So Putin knows that meeting is about to take place. He also knows that President Trump is speaking increasingly about arming Ukraine and about sanctioning Russia. Mark Thiessen, who's got pretty good ties to the Trump administration, wrote a column in the Washington Post this morning saying he's confident that Trump will do the right thing and channel his inner Mitch McConnell and fund and arm Ukraine more than Joe Biden did to bring, not to beat Putin, but to bring him to the negotiating table. I feel a little bit like this is deja vu all over again because we've had this conversation. But Dan, just where are you now on where this all stands?
I mean, the fact that every time Trump speaks, the next day Putin lobs more attacks. I think it's almost safe to say Trump tried peace and now he's going to start trying war. I mean, there's no, and I think it's the right thing to do. But how does this end? I don't know.
Sean,
So-
why is he being so? Why aren't they all in on sanctions yet, or are they? They're just not saying.
What's interesting to me about people looking at Trump and wondering how he acts, if you read his books, the playbook is there. Like when he has talked about this, how he negotiates in business in the books that he has written, The Art of the Comeback, The Art of the Deal, all these books, he talks about how he tries to get people to the table, he cajoles them, and then if he can, I mean, it's just, this is his style, decades long, how he talked about what he does in business played out on the international diplomatic stage. But so my guess is, I continue to be amazed by how poorly Putin is playing this. I think after last night and with the talks that are going on today, because Lavrov is probably a bigger word salad. I mean, he is the Kamala Harris equivalent in Russian. So I would imagine that Rubio reports back. They didn't make any commitments. They're not doing anything. I think they're going to force Trump's hand. He is going to go further in the next few days, and whether it's to bring him to the negotiating table or to inflict a little bit more pain, I think they've given him no choice.
But I think, though, as much as you talk about this being Trump's, history, this has also been the last 7 months Putin's history, and that's the rub. I just, no one in the world. Putin's undefeated in the long run. No one has been able to contain him. Nobody.
Yeah.
Well, I think Trump constantly looks back on the first 4 years and said, "Hey, I did it. Whatever that was, whatever." Well,
He didn't take an inch of land.
Didn't take an inch.
But did he? I mean, so this is the rub. Did he use the good terms he had with Trump to prepare to do something if and when Trump left? No, and I'm not saying it's Trump's fault. But again, in the long run, Putin's undefeated.
Yeah.
But that's like peace to your strength. As long as you keep.
Since Putin took office, and same with Xi, figuring out how to get leverage has been the challenge for every president, and none of them have figured it out. Trump, however, has tried a different strategy. May not work, but he's tried something different than the presidents around him. A superficial exit question: will this war be going on Thanksgiving
Of this year?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sean?
In some fashion, yes.
Okay. Britain and France, the Love Summit, the what is it called? The Eurostar Summit. Macron and Sturmer concludes today, and the New York Times headline or Politico headline says it all. Macron pitches Starmer on new special relationship as leaders strike defense deals. Long communique about coordination on all manner of national security, including their nuclear capabilities. They obviously don't have the firepower of the United States, but Sean, is it possible that pertaining to NATO and pertaining to Ukraine most immediately, that those two guys could step up, unlike any post-Cold War European leaders we've seen, to have an alliance that could actually be meaningful in taking pressure off the United States?
Well, yeah, but it's like anything else. It's a very positive step in the right direction. So whether they're there today, I don't think so. But it shows that they're actually finally stepping up and taking responsibility for their own defenses, in their own backyard. This is a positive development because it's like the Abraham Accords to some degree in obviously a very different region. But the idea is, hey, we finally are looking out for our self-interest, our region, and taking care of ourselves instead of having the United States having to play the role of daddy all the time. So I think this is positive. I hope that it leads to other countries part of the alliance, or at least cajoling them into that to that direction. But I think we should look at this as a very positive sign.
Dan?
Totally agree with them. I mean, Trump deserves credit for this. You got to walk before you run. It's a great first step. Be curious if Germany kind of somehow, enters into this as well. But
I was gonna say that. The funny part is what you don't want, and I know this is totally weird, but if you think about it domestically, for a while you had the Republican Study Committee in the House started off as this bedrock principled conservative thing. Newt Gingrich started as the Opportunity Society. And then what happened is everyone wanted to join it because they wanted some bona fides. And literally, I think 2/3 of the Republican conference are now members of it. The Freedom Caucus came in and said, all right, we're actually going to be invite only. We're going to be like 20 members and we're going to be, theoretically rock solid. The problem with allowing more countries into this is that you can't have it be NATO light. You can't have it be a bunch of countries that want to say we're going to step up for our national defense, but we're really not going to do much. So I think that this can work only if Starmer and Macron agree that there's got to be real teeth to whatever commitment you're willing to make to your capabilities.
Totally agree. Let me ask you guys this question.
Germany's the biggest economy and the biggest potential military.
Yeah, but they're paper tigers when it comes to national defense. I mean,
and they've also they still have the lingering historical issue. I'll say that. If you take every European head of government since the end of the Cold War, is there anybody in league with these two guys in terms of their vision for European security and they're willing to step up? It's a different time and Trump has forced the hand, but did Cole, where previous British or French leaders, are these guys special in this respect? Blair, somebody put in the chat. Blair
is in a league of her own, right?
Well, she's not post-end. I'm talking about end of the Cold War. I'm talking about after the Cold War.
Merkel talked about it, but it never went anywhere.
Look,
I think, Mark, it's not that Starmer or Macron are. I really mean this. I think it's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Forced him.
Yeah.
He's forcing people. This is he is forcing people to pay attention to their own national security, which is a very good thing, not just for them, but for the world.
Yeah. So here's a crazy thing. Switching topics. And I don't know if David Burrell is on listening today or not. No one that I've seen has done a focus group of MAGA people about how they feel about the Trump administration right now in the wake of the Jeffrey Epstein announcement and of what's going on in Ukraine.
Can I answer that real quick, though?
Somebody should be doing a focus group.
I will tell you that when I read Politico or anyone talking about MAGA, it's almost like I go, okay, don't count that.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. I don't care what the Washington Post and Politico think, and I don't care what a few tweets say or people say on their podcast to get attention. Is the MAGA grassroots upset about this or not? No one on here knows.
Right. What I'm trying to answer your question though by saying is, I believe unless I have a hard time figuring out who that source would be that I'd care that would say it. So in other words, how you define it when I read Playbook and they start talking about what's going on in MAGA universe, I go, does a Brit who arrived here 3 days ago?
Of course, but that's my point. I want to know what 8 people who voted 3 times for Donald Trump who live in Green Bay and in Altoona and in Lansing. I want to know what they think about this because we don't know. We don't know.
I know, and I guess all I'm saying is if you went out and said, I'll just doesn't matter. Like the Harvard goes out and does a poll, I'd be like, I don't trust them to actually know.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. We need a focus group. Dan, let me ask you this: if you're an advisor to the president, and he said, "I need you to find out if MAGA's upset. I don't care if Laura Loomer's upset, or I don't care if Charlie Kirkstein's a little upset. I want to know if my base is really upset. How would you? And he says, go to the RNC and get whatever money you need. How would you determine that?
I was just going to say here, I bet the White House is doing it right now. It is the most politically attuned White House I've ever seen. They focus group and poll relentlessly to understand the pulse of their base. Look, this happened on Monday. Ukraine has kind of happened since Saturday. My bet is they're going into the field now, and they are focus grouping. And look, you'll also know, because we're all friends and follow, a lot of right-wing influencers and media figures, right? They're business people. If their audience, if they're seeing the numbers on engagement and viewership, then it tells you because I have been shocked. This is the first time since Trump has come back that I see the right wing questioning him in a respectful way, saying it's not enough, we need more. If their viewers were saying no and switching the channel, they would stop. If they don't, it
totally
tens of
agree.
millions.
Totally agree. If you're on now, I was being a little bit facetious because the America's Best focus groups right here.
Yeah,
If you're on two-way right now and you voted 3 times for Donald Trump, please put in the chat speaking specifically about the announcement that the case closed, Jeffrey Epstein. Please put in the chat upset, not upset about that particular thing. Are you upset about it? Don't put this not upset, upset, not upset, not upset, not upset, not upset, not upset, upset,
need
not
a
upset,
poll
upset,
feature.
upset. Yeah, we do. We're working on it. All right.
Wait,
So
just to be
it's
clear,
mixed.
though, I'm
It's
reading
mixed.
everybody in here, right? So all I'm trying to do is make sure that this is again where I'm like, what's the screen? Because to me, I get it. I'm actually reading the chat,
Yeah.
but I'm going to myself, how many of these people, like, is it 3 for 3?
You mean did they all vote 3 times for Trump?
Correct.
Well, I told you only vote if you voted 3 times for Trump.
Yeah.
That's what I told. We're a very obedient group community here. We all do what we're told. All right. My point is we don't know, and yet, as Sean said, there's nothing the media likes more. The liberal dominant media likes more than writing stories about how MAGA is deeply divided.
By the way, can I add a third topic to that, Mark? Because it's Ukraine, it's Jeffrey Epstein, and it is what has kind of been now pushed under the surface, which is what Brooke Rollins is doing on immigration.
Okay, there you go. So, okay,
I think a
bingo.
issue
Listen,
is out there.
I agree.
And this is where, to your question, there are people that really care about Epstein, really care about Epstein. Some of them are MAGA. Some of them actually just care about, I mean, like I know some people who aren't MAGA that actually really care about Epstein. But I think Dan just, hit the nail on the head. The Brooke Rollins immigration amnesty thing is the biggest thing in MAGA world. If that goes south, Epstein could walk outside the courtroom like I'm alive.
But it hasn't happened. But it hasn't happened. That's the difference.
No, but that's a different.
It's got the potential. It's got the potential,
Yes.
but it's a different thing.
It reeks of Friday night in August.
All right. Yesterday, when Joe Biden's doctor took the fifth and hid behind a doctor patient, I said, well, the conservative press will cover this, but I bet it is not covered significantly by the dominant media. And let's just stipulate some facts here. The press now accepts the fact that there was a massive attempt to cover up Joe Biden's mental acuity decline. And some of the press seems to accept the fact that that's a problem, not just for credibility, but that we had a president whose acuity was declined and often insufficient probably to do the job. And yet, even the New York Post, although they covered it yesterday, it's off the homepage. It's the New York Times wrote a story. I couldn't find it in the Washington Post, at least not this morning. And the network's barely covering it. Cable's barely covering it. Again, I get that, Donald Trump is, making billions off Bitcoin and, there's plenty going on with the current administration, but I don't get this. He was the second witness to refuse to testify. He's the president's doctor. What explains the lack of coverage?
They were complicit. So the problem is that if you report on this, you have to admit your guilt.
But why is it?
The problem is the same people who are covering up this story were complicit in covering up.
I get that. But why is it not big on the New York Post homepage?
I think because there was nothing new. Like the only thing that I saw,
he refused to testify.
No, I know, but that fact, so there was nothing else because he said it across the board. He didn't answer questions, and then when you asked that question, he said the fifth.
How about asking legal and medical experts what their view is?
I hear you, but the only thing I saw last night was Jesse Waters. They had the videotape of him taking the fifth over and over and over, which is a terrible look. But to your point, Mark, I wonder if it's just there's nothing new here.
But there is something new because here's the deal.
The doctor
can agree. We can all agree on a common sense HIPAA doctor-patient confidentiality. There are certain things that a doctor has an absolute 100% right to say. I cannot tell you whether or not I tested him for this or that because we discussed his symptoms, and I get that. You get that. I think most people get it. When you take the fifth, you remember Dr. O'Connor's history. He served as his primary care physician when he was vice president, and then for 4 years between offices as a civilian, not only continued to treat him, but engaged in business activities with the Biden family. He knew that he was fair game on those business dealings, on other things that he may or may not have said to the family, give them an advice on, and he was opening himself up. What was new yesterday is the breadth and depth of the scope of which he was covering up for himself and the activities that he has continued to play with the Biden Inc.
100%. I just don't
I agree.
understand. I just don't understand the lack of coverage ever, but not just in the left media. The New York Post didn't have it. All right, put up number 105. I don't get this Comey story, Brennan and Comey. The Justice Department breaking protocol and acknowledging that there's an investigation going on, targeting the two of them. It seems in the case of Brennan to relate to Russiagate. Fascinating that most of the stories I read on this said Brennan wouldn't comment. Well, apparently the ratings of MSNBC now are so low that they don't know that Brennan's been all over MSNBC commenting up a storm about it. He seems confused and defiant as always. Defiant, I mean, he's not always confused. Comey says he doesn't know what it's about, hasn't been contacted. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but Dan, do you have any idea what's going on here? Is Donald Trump just trying to mess with them and make them run up legal bills, or is there a potential case here despite the statute of limitations?
I don't, to me, on the surface, there does not appear to be anything other than you're intimidating them, driving up legal bills, and you're sending a message. It's a shot across the bow to everybody else. Like, if don't get in our way, don't cause us trouble. And if you do, this may be what you get.
Sean, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's more than that. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. These guys targeted and weaponized the system to go after Trump folks and the president himself for 4 years. It's payback. And it's not to intimidate others. It's, you know what? You guys did it to me. I'm going to show you what it's like. I'm going to see if you stepped over that line, and I'm going to go after you. So look, Comey he thought it was funny when he talked about how he pursued Donald Trump as president of the United States, and afterwards his little seashell exercise was cute and funny. It doesn't pass the smell test. And I think it's now time for these guys to take the same medicine that they gave to others.
Yeah, but the thing is, Sean.
Hold on one second. Paul, put up the quad split. Go ahead. Keep going.
I mean, I just, Sean, the difference is Comey and Brennan have no idea what they're being investigated for. And the administration isn't saying. Comey and the Comey stuff, like even go back to the Russia stuff, right? There was no, everyone agrees the Russians tried to influence. The question was there collusion? And they found that there was not, right? But to say that Comey was out there freelancing is not backed up by any facts.
Yeah,
it actually is backed up by him. He did an interview with Paul Wallace where he made it very clear.
Hold on, just put up Mike Pence. Let's see what he's talking about. He's on CNN.
Oh boy,
war
and
effort.
why pump the brakes?
Well, I think and hope the president will see the value of Vladimir Putin seeing those sanctions on his desk, available for a signature. But the most important thing is that we continue to make it very clear that we're not going to tolerate Vladimir Putin redrawing international lines by force. He didn't do it in our 4 years. He had done it. It's important to remember Russian forces had crossed a border in Europe broadly under the Bush administration, under the Obama administration in Crimea, and of course under the Biden administration. But under our administration, we built up our military. We unleashed our armed forces to take down the ISIS caliphate. We even took down the leader of the Iran Revolutionary Guard, Qasem Soleimani. We sent cruise missiles into Syria not once but twice. I think Vladimir Putin saw us supporting Ukraine with lethal aid. I think he saw us willing to use force.
Sounds like you, Dan.
Our interests and our allies, and he stood down. And the pathway today to peace in the region, in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East, in the Asia Pacific, is American strength.
You add this together with just what you said and the strikes on Iran, and you have isolationists.
All right,
as you
dump
said,
out of this.
isolationists.
Sean, does it drive Trump nuts to hear Mike Pence out there taking a little victory lap like this?
No, not really. It's when Trump, I think when Pence is needling him on what he should and shouldn't do, maybe a little. But I also think, just to be blunt, the way Trump is, he kind of looks at Mike Pence and says, see where you are now?
Yeah, he's in the CNN studio. Raise your hand if you want to get in the conversation, because we just got 2 topics to go. Other programs would leave you high and dry after one day of coverage of Gavin Newsom's historic trip to South Carolina. Not the morning meeting. We're still on it. Day two was appeared from afar. I wish I'd been there, to be as positive for Newsom as day one. Whereas we told you yesterday, he received glowing words from no less than Jim Clyburn. Here's Newsom on the stump yesterday at an event in the Palmetto State.
What we've seen in the last number of months, frankly, the last couple of years, we've seen this rights regression. These are folks that quite literally, with respect, want to turn back the clock to a pre-1960s world. And you see it across the spectrum. You understand it better than anyone here in South Carolina on voting rights, on civil rights, on LGBTQ rights, on issues, obviously, of women's rights. No state more impacted on those issues than this state. And so again, our state of mind has to be more focused, and we have to have a sense of intentionality and urgency, and I'll close on this. And that includes everyone. Those we agree with, those we disagree with, but also parts of our state, your state and country, with all due respect, that my party, Democrats, our party, frankly have neglected. Yes. That even if we haven't turned our back intentionally, we've kind of forgotten. I mean, I'm proud. I love that I'm here.
I love that I'm here.
This is amazing.
So now he's not dropping G's quite yet, but his sleeves are rolled up and he's starting to speak a little bit like with the fake Southern accent, just a little bit. We need to keep watching that. Now, what are the metrics of success for a trip like this? Favorable words from Jim Clyburn, to be sure. Collecting names and contact numbers from voters, which hopefully from their point of view, they're doing. Local press coverage, vital. So here's a bit of local press coverage of Gavin Newsom's trip. And as Dan said when we previewed it before the program, he couldn't have scripted better from Sacramento. 114, please.
Newsom has just wrapped up a two-day tour across South Carolina in the upstate.
Today, Newsom visited rural communities in Oconee, Pickens, and Lawrence counties. Our Ray Urena was there and joins us live in Lawrence now, where Governor Newsom made his final stop. Hey, Ray.
Hey, Mark, here at this church, they actually reached over capacity, and some people had to wait on these steps in order to wait and see the governor for himself during his event, which during his remarks, he attacked the Trump administration's policies.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Seneca, Pickens, and Lawrence played host to a three-city stop in the upstate for California Governor Gavin Newsom. Newsom slammed the Trump administration and Congress for the recently passed budget bill.
Spare me the fiscal conservatism. What a frauds they are. The biggest transfer of wealth in American history. For what? For tax cuts to the wealthiest people and corporations that are having record profits and have never made more money.
I don't know how anybody could possibly think the media is biased with clips like that. I mean, it's a very straight piece. The campaign, I think the Newsom folks were like, the ad makers were like, well, why don't we just cut it from the beginning to the end and play that? Because we don't even need to make an ad.
All right, Dan, whatever Sean's sarcasm notwithstanding, you gotta take that if you're Newsom, right?
Oh, of course, yeah, because conservative media never puts Trump in the best light with his snippets ever.
Oh my God, we literally conservative media. You guys own the entire ecosystem. We've got a couple.
What's the most popular network on cable?
Fox. Because
thank you. Okay.
Because ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC.
Fine.
No further questions. No further questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Can I just?
It could not have gone any better.
Dan, just to be clear, I would love for that. I would go for that.
Dan, do you think the Newsom people collected attendee email addresses and phone numbers?
Well, the question is, do they have? Yes, I do. They should have been. If they weren't, that's.
Were the events put on? Were the events put on by the Democratic Party of South Carolina?
The question is whether, I believe he started a federal PAC, and that is where you can go put those names and harvest them and have them. You can also sign an agreement. The state parties will sell candidates their lists.
Yeah,
it's equal opportunity. Anybody can buy it.
Right, but I wonder if the state party put on those events, and I read that they were putting on at least some of them. I wonder who was at the who was at the door getting email addresses and phone
or
numbers.
you do the RSVP. You have to RSVP to get in, you get their stuff, and then it's a joint venture.
Yeah. All right,
But
let's hold on, because I know some of the Newsom people will watch our program. Please let us know if you collected names and how many. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
First of all, I will say the more you watch him, like I can't get over how he uses his hand. I mean, it's like he's speaking ASL. Secondly, just think of the arc of Gavin Newsom. 6 weeks ago, it was, I'm going to interview Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon and try to be like this guy that wants to bring in other voices. And it was like somebody went and said, oh, we polled that. It doesn't work. And he went, okay, good. Now I'm going to go back to fighting for the rights of the disadvantaged. I mean, this guy is so full of crap. It is unbelievable. And he might be good at this, but I'm telling you, I don't know how long the shtick lasts.
You know what, though? Yeah. I think you can draw different lessons, though, from his conversations with Charlie Kirk and others. To me, there's a little bit of this Trump kind of esque attitude, which is, what do a lot of people love about Trump? Fight, fight, fight. Listen to what voters are saying when he goes places. He fights, fights, fights. He stood up. He punched back. He didn't take it from Trump. We can debate if that was good politics or not, going into a general election. But he is firing up Democrats with an unapologetic message. The fact that he called them complete phonies and frauds on fiscal conservatism, which is 100% true, and we've talked about it on this show, the number of Democrats who are like A blank men. Yeah. And so you don't hear Rahm Emanuel out there saying it.
Last thing I'll say, I don't know who advanced all these stops. I don't know who did the schedule.
Yep.
A plus, and now sets the standard. If you're someone going into an early state and you're doing 1 day, not 2, if you're doing 2 events and not 8, if you're getting no local news coverage and national coverage, you're falling short of the standard he just set. No one has had a trip like that this cycle. And I don't know if it was positive staff work, if the fact that he's handsome and governor of California, whatever it is, whether he's more famous than most of these others, that trip set the standard. Now let's see how the others do. All right. Lastly, time for the local news cut-in. We'll be back with the national news in just a minute. New York City mayor's race developments. Wall Street Journal editorial page says Chuck Schumer better not endorse Mondami because he's too anti-Israel. CNN reports that the socialists are now thinking of primarying a bunch of New York Democratic House members, including Hakeem Jeffries. And the Jeffries people call the Mondami people, what do they call them? The gentrification caucus or something?
Yes. Yeah.
So there's that. Now, Mondami, New York Times story says he may keep on the current police commissioner, which would be very popular with a lot of people who are suspicious of him, because having a strong police commissioner will go a long way towards calming the horses. New York Times also reports that he's hiring an establishment Democratic figure as his communications director. And the Cuomo Adams comedic dance trying to get each other to the race continues. Dan, percentage where you are today that he's the next mayor of New York? You were at 65.
Yeah, it's going up 1 or 2% a day, in that he is doing everything you'd want to do to try to solidify. One of the things you didn't mention that I found remarkable is that Patrick Gaspard apparently is advising him. Patrick Gaspard, former White House.
Who reported that?
I think it's Politico, that Gaspard has been going back to the primary, has been advising Mondani. For those who don't know, White House political director, then went to be the ambassador to South Africa, former SEIU political director. He's not an insignificant figure.
Not insignificant, pretty liberal, but not insignificant.
He is, but still, he's trying to get institutional figures. And on the other side,
Dan, I need a number, Dan. You were at 65. You said up to a day.
68 today.
Sean.
Which is going up a little bit every day.
Sean.
82.
The correct answer is 85%. 85%. All right. Now it's time for your participation in the program.
By the way, just real quick, if I can say, because Dan got a couple words in, I will just say the biggest thing that's going in Mondami's favor to get that number, and I said 82 because I said 81 yesterday, and I'll bet 83 tomorrow. And I'll go up a point every day. Because
I go last, and you'll never top me.
So you learned that lesson yesterday, but I have to at some point though, Mark. You're at 85. You only have 15 to go. That's why I need to give myself a little wiggle room, because at some point you're gonna have to stop. So this is my Connect Four strategy. I've got to I'm thinking five spaces ahead. Here's the thing: every day that goes by that there is not a coalescing of an alternative is a win for Mondami every day. So I will go up a point because if these guys are circular firing, and the other key thing is during the cabinet meeting, President Trump was asked about Curtis Lewa, and he said, he's on the ballot every 4 years. I'm gonna stay out of this. That was not so. Point being is that there were people that were urging him to support Adams, which I don't think he was ever going to get around. Yeah. But he's also not going to endorse Sliwa, which I think is a big deal.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So ends the local news portion. Now we'll bring you all in. Again, if you'd like to be in the conversation, please raise your hand. When you come in, tell us where you are. And then, thrill of a lifetime, what's in your mind for Dan and for Sean? Mr. Edson, welcome in. Thank you for joining. Unmute, tell folks where you are, what's on your mind.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Welcome in.
Yeah, I'm calling from Christiansburg, Virginia, next to Virginia Tech in Southwest Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say I think Dan has an infectious smile, and I respect I always respect men that can wear really loud colors of suit jackets. So props to Sean there. I'm with Mark. I don't get the Gavin Newsom running for president. There's too much baggage there. Dan, could you kind of unpack why you think it doesn't make sense to me?
Well, look, one, he's the governor of the largest state in the country. So just from a kind of nuts and bolts of it, what did George H.W. Bush say? California, Texas, and Florida, you're a 3-foot putt from the White House a little bit in terms of your experience. I think Gavin's biggest Achilles has been and remains today, even after that great trip, I think maybe what you're alluding to, which is California has a lot of problems. And ultimately, he is going to have to, figure out a way to talk about them in terms of homelessness and crime and some of the businesses that have left. I know they've had a net increase. He talks about it everywhere, but there have been some very prominent Fortune, 1000s that have left and said the tax rates are too high, cost of living is too high, et cetera. So we'll see. Winning candidates have to figure that out. But it's also a question of, if not him, then who? And you look around and I could give you weaknesses for every candidate, as Mark has been saying for a while. And, Gavin's has got as good a chance as any of them.
One of Bill Clinton's best lines: if you want a perfect candidate, vote for someone else.
Could I ask one question to Sean?
Yes, sir.
Just one.
So, Sean, I'm kind of reading the Brennan and Comey thing as we kind of flopped on the Epstein thing, and we're trying to even out the conspiracy theories a little bit, and so it's another way to kind of pull attention that way. Is that a possibility?
I think that it's a great point you're making. I don't think that just came out of nowhere. Like you had Radcliffe make the referral to the FBI, meaning that would have taken, minimum like 24 hours, 48 hours. So I don't, and I mean that like even if you just gunned it out of nowhere. So I think that was longstanding. Trump has been pissed about Comey and Brennan and the other people who were in the intelligence community for whatever it's now 7 years. So this didn't just happen. So I think it's an interesting angle you're bringing up. I believe that it probably was a long time in the making.
Thanks for asking my opinion. I 100% agree with you on that. It is red meat to toss to the base.
Well, Dan made the point, the live by conspiracy, die by conspiracy yesterday. And I think that they kind of are trying to say, well, we got it right on this one or something like that.
Yeah, good theory. Could be true. Thank you for joining. Appreciate it. The Mike Pence interview is still going on, and it was going on long before we dipped into it. It's a very long interview. And amongst the things I know from the CNN Chiron that he said in the interview is Donald Trump did not change the Republican Party. So, Sean, that was a good literal eye roll.
Will there be a truth today? Will Trump, or will he not dignify it?
He doesn't have a lot on his schedule.
Depends on how much traction it gets, but probably.
But here's the deal.
So you want me to retweet it?
Do you honestly think, I mean, like that to me, like at some point, it's one thing to say your opinion. I don't think he's changed it much or something, but to say that it hasn't changed.
I didn't. I've just gone off the Chiron.
I know that.
Maybe
but
the
I'm just
Chiron.
saying,
Maybe the Chiron writer was like the people who write my tweets, which is just going for hyperbole.
all right. Well,
All
I
right.
mean,
All
honestly,
right,
that if I could
Richard.
roll both eyes at the same time twice, I would do it.
Richard, welcome in. Thank you for joining. Tell folks where you are, what's on your mind.
Good morning, Mark. Also, Dan and Sean. Right at the moment, I'm in Key Biscayne, Florida. Live also just outside of Buffalo, New York.
Is that your flagpole out there, sir?
No, that's the flag outside the window of the Harvard Club in New York City.
That's what I was going to guess.
Buffalo,
That was my
the
second
Harvard
guess.
Club in Key Biscayne. That's all right.
Wait, so I'm sorry. Where are you now? You're in Key Biscayne, or you're in the Harvard Club?
Right. No, right now I'm in Key Biscayne, Florida. If I had my,
Do they have a Harvard Club in Key Biscayne?
No, I think it's on. Was it West 44th Street?
So you're saying that's a virtual background?
Yeah,
it's a virtual background. Yeah,
it's called the Ocean Reef Club, Sean.
Yeah. All right. Sounds like you got a pretty good life.
Well, I spent 30 plus years in Washington, Washington, D.C. I worked spent a number of years working for Rob Portman at USTR. I was a chief ag counsel there for a number of years.
We're big fans of Rob Portman here.
Yeah, we miss him. We miss him a lot. Also, I worked as a Senate aide on the Republican side. But I just wanted to go back to the discussion that started the show about
the celery juice. You want to go back to the celery?
Not that one.
Not that.
No, about Russia and Ukraine. I think what we really have to understand is what Russia wants, what its motivation is, what Putin wants, and what his motivation is. And very simply, he wants everything. He wants the whole thing. And I really don't think we're going to come to a permanent end, a resolution to the crisis in Ukraine, unless we understand that viscerally and embody that in our policy.
Do you mean all of Ukraine, or all of Europe, or all of Poland? Like
all of Ukraine? No, Putin has said repeatedly that Ukraine is not a legitimate country. It has no right to exist. And I think that's his motivation. He's talked about the historical confluence between the Russian and the Ukrainian people. So I don't think that he's going to abandon that position just because we want him to. We have a permanent or semi-permanent, I guess, until somebody really violates it in a big way, truce in Korea. And the only reason that war came to an end is essentially because we had an international coalition that fought the North Korean forces and basically the Chinese to a draw. And then we've maintained 40,000 troops there for what, 80 years, 70 years or so. I don't think anybody wants to see a Korea type situation in the heart of Europe. I think Sean is right in the sense that we have to make it so painful for Putin. And Dan, I think, has also had the same thought. We have to make it as painful for Putin as possible to understand that Ukraine is not an illegitimate country, that he's never going to get.
What would that take?
I think it would take doing what Nixon did with respect to Israel when Israel's existence was threatened by the Arab invasion in the 6-Day War, or no, 1973. Kissinger came to Nixon and told him that Israel was in dire straits, and what should the United States do? And Nixon's response was, send them everything that flies and everything that shoots. And we did that, and of course the outcome was Israel was saved. Golda Meir didn't have to use nuclear weapons,
Right.
And we had the basis for a rough sort of stalemate that lasted until the present day.
All right, let's let the guys comment on that. Sean, if the president agreed with what's saying, like, is that possible? Is that something politically tenable and militarily possible?
Well, it's possible to send them a lot more and to go on the offense. The problem, we talked about this before, but you've got a Chinese problem. I mean, what China does and how they react is not going to, I mean, like, we all get this. That's the missing piece on the board that we're not looking at, which is you can try to choke off China and then rush, and you're probably dragging China into this. And that's the balance that they're trying to achieve, which is why, I think to me, there's a little bit more that we can be doing, though, instead of just giving them defensive things. Let them go on the offense. I think the additional sanctions are helpful. Start choking them off, really make it difficult. Europe needs to step up as well. And I think part of it is that if there's a combined effort, both economically and giving them a little bit more on the military side to make this, because just letting it bleed out to me makes no sense. You're literally just having people die and destruction continue to occur. And it's not even an armistice like we have in Korea. Like, you're not stopping and just kind of all agreeing that there's a new border. You're literally going to allow stuff like happened last night. People will continue to die. More destruction will occur. So we need to do something to shake this thing up. And I think that you've got to find that balance point. Where is it that you're not going to drag China in, but you can economically start to put a little bit more of a stranglehold on them, especially with the oil, and then try to figure out what you can supply Ukraine with to allow them to go a little bit more on the offense. That's not going to tip the scale.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the sanctions are meaningless because they're going to keep trading with China. So China's going to keep consuming their oil happily at a cheap price and keep providing them stuff. I think the only solution to this is exactly what you just described. 40,000 troops. It won't be ours. It's going to be German. It's going to be French. It's going to be English, maybe, some Italian and Dutch. We will provide weaponry and logistical support. We'll have advisors there.
And what happens when Putin kills a British soldier?
It's going to be, look, I think he won't do it. And then what you try to do is you try to wait him out. So Putin will, at some point, if he can't go any further after a few years, I think Putin, and Mark, you're seeing this in news reports, there are a lot of Russian advisors who say, wait Trump out, meaning he doesn't have the stomach to keep doing this. So don't agree to anything. Sweet talk him, drag your feet, keep launching attacks. He wants all of Ukraine.
Give him lines of bullshit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice way
Well,
to say.
I was just going to add to that I think both Sean and Dan have a good perspective on this, but I think we need to keep a consistent supply of weapons flowing so that there isn't this stop start phenomenon with the ability of the very brave Ukrainian forces to defend themselves. And the one thing I will say also about Sergei Lavrov and his appearance in these meetings, I don't think that he's a dumb person. I think that he's I think that he's correctly representing what his boss wants.
Yes.
And just remember what happened to the late Russian transportation minister who somehow stepped out of line.
Yeah. Richard,
Lavrov is definitely, I mean, you might as well be talking to Putin when you're talking to Lavrov.
Exactly.
Yeah. Richard, thank you. Tell Senator Portman we'd love to have him on too.
We love the show, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you. Grateful to you. All right. Welcome in, Christian. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind, why that fan's moving so slowly.
I'm thinking the same thing.
Right. So
is that busted? Is that busted?
No. I'm in my bonus room at the house, and we have a separate AC unit, and it kicks on periodically, and like just ever so gently. It makes it seem like the fan's broken.
It's almost like a children's mobile than it is.
Yes.
Is the bonus room a way to say that it's a man cave, but my wife can come in?
I wish. It's my office. I work from home, so that's why I'm able to hop on this show and whatnot. But
where do you live, Christian?
I live in Middle Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. I'm originally from Michigan, and I
Who's
know
the
you were
be-
looking.
Who's the best
Go ahead.
governor? Who's the best governor of Tennessee in your lifetime?
I mean, Bill Lee, because I moved here during COVID, so
Okay.
I don't have a ton to pick from.
All right, I'm sorry. You said we were looking for people who voted for Trump 3 times. Is that
Trump
you?
3 times, yeah. I'm from Michigan originally, so I'm not from Lansing, but Metro Detroit.
All right, so
got those roots.
on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not bothered at all, and 10 you're ready to burn Trump in effigy. Where are you on Secretary of Agriculture trying to smuggle in workers? Where are you on that one?
And Epstein, you know each of them.
Yeah.
Where are you on that one first? Where are you on the ag workers getting amnesty?
I would rather it be.
Looking for a number, dude.
A work visa. Okay, 8. I'm
8.
at 8.
Okay, where are you? Where are you on the Epstein conspiracy Stonewall?
That one's a 10.
That one's
Absolutely.
a 10. Okay,
Yeah,
where
that's a 10.
where are you in the president acting like Mitch McConnell when it comes to Ukraine?
3.
All right, why are you a 10 on Epstein?
So the 10 on Epstein is this. I feel like there are certain stories over the last several years that have cut through the zeitgeist, that have stayed around for a very long time, because the conspiracy is just too grand and large for it to just be explained away at a cabinet meeting and a one-off from Pam Bondi and him interrupting. I thought he, for a president that is so good at reading the room, I thought it was terrible. Pam Bondi got caught up on the details, the missing minute of the video, not being able to directly answer the question of whether he belonged to intelligence. So if there's not a conspiracy, you about did the worst possible job to
Dude, you're speaking for tens of millions.
Do you blame President Trump for Epstein, or do you believe therefore that Pam Bondi is just doing what she's told, or do you think that Pam Bondi is stonewalling President Trump, or something in between?
I don't know. It's something in between / none of the above. The conspiracy mind of mine is that I think it's partially Trump. It's partially like a collection of people that are like, oh my gosh, this is such an insane story that would shake the power structures of the world across multiple intelligence agencies and countries. I think they're making a calculated decision.
If you could speak directly to the president and he asks you what to do about Epstein now, what would you tell him?
Burn it down. I would say burn it down. Meaning what? Release. Transparency.
Okay, so Christian, play this out for me real quick. There's let's just call it 100 names that are on that list. Dan has given us a preview, between Palm Beach and New York, 50-50. Actually, they all live in New York and then they go to Palm Beach, I think. Is that the play? Yeah. So, but they're politicians of both sides. There's some media folks in there and a lot of wealthy businessmen type donors. So when you release that list, when you say burn it, you're burning your friends, and I just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Well, there's another piece.
What are the levels of association? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is that, like, in my mind, there is, like, we've all heard enough stories over the years about who was on a plane, who wasn't, who went to the island, who didn't. Let's just, again, I'm picking this out of nowhere. It's 100 people. Let's, maybe it's 5,000. I don't know. But that all these people. 80 of them. 70 of them well, or 50 of them well. When you say burn down the house, it's friends, business partners, associates. You're willing to say, hey, for the good of the country, I got to get them all.
Who have never been convicted or tried in a court of law. Dan.
Wow. And there's one other piece to this. Donald Trump has been photographed with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not saying he is involved with young girls. But another part of that, Sean, is you burn everyone else down. No one knows what their relationship was. One of the figures is gone. So if you light that torch and someone loses their wife, their family, their job, a lot of stuff, somebody may say, hey, I did know Epstein. And so did the president of the United States. And Elon Musk has flirted online. Who knows where he got that from? There are a lot of pieces to this.
I mean, look, if you've listened to how Donald Trump has handled himself over the last 10 years, I think he's the least concerned about himself when it comes to this, because there is nothing that sticks to him, right? He has deflected every controversy that has come his way in the last 10 years and beyond before he got into politics. But I do think, I mean, I'm just trying to get to this to Christian, because I want, when we say burn it down, I just want to make sure that we understand what that means, because to Mark's point, you got a lot of people who are probably calling you, let's just say, I mean, again, we're playing this out, role playing it, and saying, hey, I went, maybe I did go to the island, but I got to be honest with you, I had no idea what this was, and now my name's going to come down, and I still am the chairman emeritus of such, and I give $5 billion to these hospitals, and oh, by the way, I gave 10 million to the super PAC, and like this will destroy me and the family.
And I'm very interested in your library, Mr. President. I wanted to have the state of the art Hall of Presidents.
Well, I wasn't going to go there, but but so Christian, I mean, what I'm saying is that I just want to make sure that, like, when you say that we all understand what that means, which is your view is, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What is, knowing that context, is that what you mean by burn it all down?
The short answer would be yes.
Yeah.
And the reason being is I think he's already a transformational leader and will go down as that in our history for lots of different reasons. I think as a 3-time Trump voter, many of them good. And I think that would just cement his legacy in a way that would outlast generations. This would be something that would be looked back at 5 decades from now, like, wow, there was a time that somebody stood up for young people when it was extremely inconvenient, when it brought hell and fire on him. I would give him all the credit in the world, and it would be hard to mess up his presidency. But sorry, last thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, Pete, do you want to talk about this topic or something else?
Ukraine.
All right. Unfortunately, we don't have time. I'd love for you to come back, but we're hitting the end of the time. I apologize. Thank you. Christian, if you want to make one more point quickly, please do.
Yeah. Last point. There's tons of documentation of who is who, and I prefer a high level of scrutiny. Let's say there's recordings. There's definitely recordings of this stuff. And somebody that got a lunch with Jeffrey Epstein in New York is different than somebody who is recorded raping children. I think there can be a delineation of who is who.
Yeah. All right, Christian, thank you. Go ahead, Sean.
I want this. We posted this on Instagram the other day, just so everyone, and I'll play this just so everyone can hear this, because this goes to Christian's point.
Remember, I was accused falsely on the Epstein, and ultimately I was completely cleared. The woman that she may have mistook me for somebody else, who withdrew all of her lawsuits. And so from day one, from the day I was accused, I said I want every document out, because I knew every document would prove I was innocent. So let me tell you, I know for a fact documents are being suppressed, and they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them, but I'm bound.
Alan.
So that's Alan Dershowitz on my show saying he's seen the list, he knows who's on it, but he is bound by lawyer. I was going to say doctor patient. So this is, and if you want to see the whole clip, but like, I'm telling you, like, this is, again, where there's enough that's been said in the past that's going to create the problem in the future.
Yes. All right, Sean. And again, sorry we couldn't get to your question about Ukraine. We're just out of time, but please come back or come on 2A tonight. Sean, what do you have this evening?
Well, we're going to actually do our little focus group. We're talking on how MAGA is faring on the big, beautiful bill, on these issues. Where is it now? Steve Cortez, who is MAGA from the beginning, Jen Pellegrino, Caroline Downey of National Review. And so part of it is we're going to talk about where we are as a movement, what we've accomplished, what we're proud of, what we still need to do.
Cordo. Steve Cortez, we call him Cordo. Dan will be available at 4:00 today. The group chat returns for an in-studio episode. You'll see them all face-to-face. Dan, have you met everybody already face-to-face?
The only one I haven't is Nina, but just, yes, like, this is really exciting. We are moving into a studio. We will not be on Zoom here going forward. So very excited to see it later today and to have our first show
Have
together.
you thought about what you're wearing? I mean, this is a big.
Oh, Sean, you're not on the group chat text thread.
Pants for one thing. All right, so 4 o'clock group chat, 6 o'clock. Aaron Parness will join me of the Parness Project on Two-Way tonight, 6 o'clock. Roundup of all the day's news, including the latest from Ukraine. Moynihan Report. It's a pre-taped episode, so you can't join, but you can watch it live on Furl at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the episode with Jonathan Gould, who's written the new Talking Heads biography. And we'll be back at 7 o'clock tonight, or 9 a.m. tomorrow. And later today, my newest episode of Next Up will drop, including my reported monologue on how Donald Trump makes decisions. You won't want to miss it. Thank you all for watching and for participating. Grateful to you for being part of the Two-Way community, and we will see you in 23 hours. Have a good day.